We're live.
Right. Hello. How's everybody doing? How are you doing?
Happy Thursday.
Yeah, it's Thursday. It feels like Friday, even though I know it's Thursday.
I know, right? I'm so primed for like to be kind of done with this. And then my
Yeah.
week is like kind of wrapped up. And then I'm usually running off to some thing that I agreed to that I was like, oh yeah, I'll totally have time after we're done recording to go do the thing.
It's probably a healthy thing is to make commitments, socializing commitments.
No, I know, right? Well, it's so much better for me on Thursday because occasionally I'll do stuff on Thursdays with folks, but it's like the Friday it was becoming like almost every time I would like it's like every
Always be
week I was
late.
having
Yes.
something. And like I've talked
Yeah.
about this before. I'm a huge fan of 3-day weekends.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to 3-day weekend when you have a fucking podcast. I like the pod.
We're gonna get a 4-day weekend.
I know, right? But yeah, I mean, I think like I wanted the cover photo for the live stream, which will be the podcast art. I thought was hilarious. It's a artistic AI representation of us over a
Mm,
computer screen or a laptop, but the
mm.
laptop screen was hallucinated the other way.
Oh, oh.
I thought it was really funny. And like people, I still get flack for like using AI images. I don't care. And
Yeah.
yes, they do sometimes make mistakes and it's funny.
I don't know if we talk about the one where it was
The
so way
beach.
off base. Yeah, the beach one. It was
I don't
so
know. I
off
don't
base.
remember.
It was so off base. So yeah.
I have to look back through that because I remember we were really late because I was struggling to get the AI to generate a
To
cover
get the
image
right.
that wasn't insane. I guess just for folks, like I'll usually feed it some kind of a prompt to like get something related to like what we're going to talk about. And then I feed it our images and then it usually like does like will transpose us. But I would say, I don't know, 1 in 10 times it fails miserably and like
Yeah,
catastrophically.
yeah.
And for whatever episode that was, it decided that Nathan and I needed to be on the beach. And it just like, it went from like, I think we were in like it was like a cafeteria with like a whiteboard. We were doing some like nerd thing to like, I was like, okay, cool. Why don't we like change the shirt color? And it was like, beach.
Right.
And it's really frustrating because it's like, I don't want to sit here and like, you know, for some folks, it's probably fun. I'm like, I know I want like a quick cover photo to try to visually communicate what we're talking about and move on,
Mm.
not spend 20 minutes trying to get AI to like dehallucinate the beach.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. I think that's always the critique with AI, right?
Yeah.
If you're doing it for fun, sure, whatever. But once you need the reliable outcome, and that's sort of the whole thing with businesses and enterprises
Yeah.
adopting AI,
No,
it's not
100% is
consistent.
yeah, it's not taking anyone's job until it can
Mm,
like reliably and predictably do stuff, which it can't. So good luck.
yeah.
On the front of reliable and predictable, though, I think I've discovered a new AI hack.
Yes, share, please.
Yeah, so I've been using Claude models pretty much exclusively now. I will use Gemini for like deep research or if I need Googling
Yeah.
done. But pretty much Claude for code now. And I've been using Fable a lot for planning and then Opus, Sonnet, execution, which I think is pretty standard pattern for most people. But what I've been experimenting with this week, and I've gotten some really great results, is using Opus to do a deep planning session and then using Fable as more of like your critique and improve step.
Mhm.
And then using Opus Sonnet method to execute. And what I found is that before I would need probably 60 to 70% more Fable credits to get
Mm,
an output. Whereas with this method, I use maybe a third of the Fable credits. I get
right.
a roughly equivalent output. It's really hard to test this stuff because I'm doing like novel development work and it's really hard to A/B test. But I do it enough where it's like the output like criteria is how many bugs
Mhm.
are there. What is the drift from what I'm intending to build to like what's documented to then what gets built? How long does it take? Because I find that like the quality of the plan can sometimes help Opus 5 is like hopeless at this hopeless at this point,
Yeah, yeah.
um, in terms of like consistency. But so yeah, so it's about a third less or a third of the Fable credits, and that's not necessarily offset by more Opus credits. Like I wasn't using
Mhm,
any Opus credits before, but Opus credits are about half the cost of Fable. And so it's like the math comes out to, I think it's about 40% of the cost to plan that it was before. It does
mhm.
take more time because I run an Opus cycle and that takes time. And then the Fable cycle tends to take less time, but still takes time.
Yeah,
And then Fable will spin up Opus and Sonnet to do the critiques too. So you burn a little bit more credits there. But like, 60% cost reduction for like roughly the same quality and like roughly the same execution is pretty big. It's just a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit more planning time and upfront. So
Right, right. So as to clarify, like using Opus to start the planning and then be able to critique it gives you 30, roughly 30% of the same usage as if you were just use Fable throughout the whole planning process, right?
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
Fable only versus the Opus plus Fable is
Right,
about
right. Yeah.
60% less cost, and I would say maybe 20% more time.
Anecdotally, right, right. Yeah. And then anecdotally better or equal result to
Yeah.
a Fable plan. Yeah,
Yeah,
amazing.
and total cost right now seems to be like with execution of the plan is probably 80 to 90% of the
Mhm.
cost of doing a Fable only plan. So it's a little bit cheaper in the execution. And so far, at least, like time is about the same. Progress is
Yeah.
about the same. It's, not really noticeable yet. So yeah, so I thought that was kind of an interesting, like I hadn't really thought about that before.
Mm.
I do think like it will really depend on what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your results will definitely vary, but I think for anything that has, so I guess maybe to help people too, if I'm going to build something more novel, I'll do research on that space or specific features around kind of what I'm trying to do, compile that, and then write like a high level PRD, give all that data to the model, have it rough it out, ask questions, we go through some turns,
Mhm.
and then build a plan. I'll look at the plan. If we need feedback, we'll do it, and then we build. And so by swapping out, using Opus to do the initial planning and then Fable to basically redo the plan, but like
Yeah.
better.
Mhm.
It's been pretty good so far. So for folks
Yeah.
struggling
Yeah.
on Fable limits or Fable costs, I think that's been a really good strategy so far.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if I could also add some more
Yeah,
context, I don't know how many people have listened to all the things that we've talked about, but some background for this process,
yeah,
there's a general consensus, I would say, that to get the best results for at least development work in when you're using agents, is you typically go through the planning phase with an agent first to make sure that when it goes building things, it's going to build the right things. It saves you a lot more time than to tell to build something and then go back and then tell to build something or fix something, because then that kind
yeah,
of spins out of control very, very quickly. So the idea is you work with your agent, you go through a planning phase, and then you review the plan, like Andrew said, and if it looks good to you, then you go ahead and do an implementation. Um, the thing here is you're saying do the plan with Opus, and then you can have Fable critique the plan to make sure it's tight, and then you have to spin off the agents do the implementation. So Fable is only accessible if you have the max plan. They did give some credits for pro users. It's $100, which given Fable's cost, honestly, isn't that much. But that being said, I'd want to call it that. I think that process of having an agent review the plan before you do the
yeah,
implementation also works with Opus. So you could have Opus
exactly.
create the plan and then have Opus review the plan, or a separate session review the
Yeah,
plan, and it'll catch things because something's weird with Opus right now where it sort of kind of tries to shortcut and miss things. And Andrew and I have talked about it offline. But I found
I
that that
hate
also
it.
works. If you have Opus plan and then have a review of the plan itself, and then you do the automation.
Yeah.
Generally, in my anecdotal experience, it's better.
Yeah, and I'm using Ultra Code too for both
Mm.
steps, which I think is
Which
huge because
is,
it'll allow the model to spawn off different more sessions and use
yeah.
critiquers of its own and like break out different strategies, and it'll do adversarial um, work on that. I think we've talked about this too, but like people get really into plugins and shit. I've
Mm.
run pretty vanilla unless I'm doing something highly specialized, and then I develop my own skills for whatever I'm
Yeah.
doing because I'm doing
Yeah.
things that I don't know, can't find skills for. But
Yep.
I am using the superpower skill from Anthropic, and I don't typically invoke it, but the
Mm.
model is aware of it and will. And I will say, Opus 5 does a much better job leveraging skills and other
Yeah.
resources than its predecessors. And so it'll use that. There's like a brainstorming function in there that'll help. Sometimes it'll use it, sometimes it won't. Um, so that's my setup. Like it's not magic. I think we need to have more people need to be talking about like the more details of it, and like not
Yeah.
all the weird Swiss Army knife tool shit that you can do with it, but more around like what's the outcome you're driving, or like when do you do different things.
Yeah.
And what you're trying to do. Like I'm the two test cases for this were 0 to 1 apps.
Mm.
So it's like pretty big, meaty, hard stuff that went through 15-20 turns of questions and answers and like
Yeah.
refines
Right.
and critiques to get the plan finished before we execute. So try to give people like, I don't know, maybe I should just do a live stream again where I just like build
Yeah.
some
Zero. Yeah,
dumb
yeah. So
app.
0 to 1. Yeah. 0 to 1 is when you don't. It's not an existing app, right? You're building the app from
Right.
scratch. Yeah, and this is typically used to sort of gauge how good models are. Like people in the X space or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, will share the results of like a one-shot video game, 0 to 1. Like, just
Yeah.
build this video game for me, and then you'll see the results. And depending on how well it does, people have some sort of gauge of how robust that model is.
Yeah.
Um, but
Well,
yeah, yeah.
and why are you building 0 to 1, Andrew? Oh, great question, Nathan.
Why are you building 0 to 1, Andrew? Yeah,
Yeah.
you're a PM. Why are you building
I know,
things?
right?
No,
Yeah,
yes,
why am
yeah,
I
yeah.
building things? I own a software company, but there's a I put it in the title for the live stream, but there's a
I was not aware of that.
competition. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
Surprise.
if I knew it beforehand, I would have been able to catch the the
I think
segue
this is where I say
there.
it was in a doc, but there is no doc. But yeah, so there's a competition going on called Shipathon, and it's put on by a few different companies. RevenueCat, I think, is the primary one. RevenueCat is a framework for Google Play, Apple Store, and web, and some other stuff to easily take payments and track and run as kind of a all your backend customer opsy kind of stuff. They also, I think, have an ads product now. Not an endorsement. I do use them. I've used them for several years. I don't have any problems with them. But they're putting it on. This isn't an endorsement or an ad, but I am participating in it. So I thought it'd be kind of
Mm,
fun to talk about it. And I really like the way that they're doing it. And so I'm going to give just a summary as I understand it. I'm not an expert on this, so go visit the website if you're interested. But you have basically 2 months from August 1st to September 30th to create a new app and then submit it. And so they have, I don't know, probably a dozen or so categories of different types of apps or different criteria that you can match. And then you get in the drawing for basically prizes. It's a judged competition. They go through how it's all judged and all that shit. But I think like, and whatever, if you don't want to do the competition, fine. I love the idea. And we were talking about this offline. I have a project I've been working on for a while, and it's pretty
mhm,
close to being done in public. And I was going to release it in a different way. And then I
mhm,
got an email from RevenueCat, full transparency. And I was like, oh, it'd be kind of fun to like make this an app and just kind of like see if I can speed run. Cause I've done a lot of the work conceptually. And so it's like, can I like finish the conception and the planning, get it to execute, get it submitted in like 2 months? And kind of a fun little pressure thing. Also a great excuse just to, get the damn thing done.
yes, yes, yes.
so it's been kind of this project that's kind of come on and off the shelf for a little bit, and it's kind of like really push on it, and now I'm like, well, now I'm gonna push on it because I might win prize money, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think one of the things about this particularly, in relation to some of the things that we try and push, like innovation, creativity, this revenue cat is, or what are they called? Shipathon is a variation of a
Shipathon.
hack. Yeah, it's a variation of a hackathon, right? So
Yep.
hackathons are a strategy, an event that you can run internally. I've seen this a lot in software companies where they'll host an internal hackathon,
Yep.
and this sort of sparks ideas because you have a small time frame, and we talked about constraints being a driver for innovation in some scenarios, but also it brings people together and you share ideas. But what I think is so interesting about the Shipathon is, with hackathons, typically you would sort of like have an idea and you just sort of flesh it out a little bit, or you'd get like a prototype or like a
Or
very, very
improve
rough
something
MVP.
that you don't have
Yeah,
time to
yeah, yeah.
work on. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah. And now this whole Shipathon with, they're kind of pushing the use of AI is nowadays we can start building entire apps in the context of a hackathon, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's really cool to see the evolution of that and leveraging the
Yeah.
capabilities that we sort of seen grow over the past few months.
Yeah, and the way that I understand it is that there's, a dozen or so categories, and you can submit your app to one or many of the
Yeah.
categories, theoretically all of them. And so that's kind of cool too that you don't have to have like 20 apps that you're building. Now, you're probably not going to be able to hit all the criteria and have a
Right.
well contending app for all of it, but a lot of the categories overlap, and like the one big one, and I kind of titled the stream this too, is like build in public, and they're trying to encourage people to build in public or do promotion around a part of the development process, tell a story, that kind of thing. Obviously, this is to grow their social media graph, so it's marketing, but I love the idea that they're trying to encourage people as part of this, and there's real money behind it, so you get real cash dollars if you win.
Mhm.
But they're trying to encourage people to like talk about their, and they say that you can't just like post a screenshot and be like, I did public. They want you to really tell a compelling story. They don't care about audience size, that kind of stuff, which is cool. So I wanted to kind of give a shout out for that too. Like I said, I'm gonna enter the competition or submit, I guess. I don't know if
Mhm.
Apple ever gets my shit approved. Like we'll see. Just
You've
for
got
like,
time.
I don't know, man.
I say that as I bite my tongue. Yeah.
I know,
Apple,
right?
Apple,
Yeah,
it
I've
takes a sweet time.
complained at length on this podcast about Apple and
Yeah.
Google Play Store processes, and it's seemingly getting more draconian. So if you do want to do this, you can do Apple or Google, and or I think like Samsung. There's some other thing I didn't really know about. If you don't have a developer account, do it today. If you think you're interested, get the paperwork in. It's going to take a long time to get it. If you have an app that you've been kind of playing around with, submit it because it's going to take a while to get it approved.
Mhm.
One of the apps that we publish, task app called Now This, has been sitting in the Apple review abyss for a week.
The review of this is accurate. Yeah.
I submit them, through the store. I guess I'm the store manager or lead developer. I don't know what the fuck
Yeah.
my title is, but paperwork guru. So I did the TPS report, and this app has never had anything rejected. Like it's a pretty straightforward app. There's monetization built into it, but it's pretty straightforward. It's nothing crazy, and typically it's hours to days to get
Mhm.
approved. Most of the time, it's like 3 days. In my experience, is like the max. It's usually if it's like a weekend or a holiday, but they're usually pretty good. Like the first submission will take a while. It could take weeks. It depends how big your app is, like what you're trying to do. They're really big on making sure you're not collecting, data that you're not proclaiming, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But then subsequent updates generally go pretty quick unless you're adding like massive new functionality or there's, you're doing a whole new kind of componentry. But this is the first time I've had a really, really bad slowdown. I've been seeing, like posts on Reddit. I've been talking with other folks who are doing this. We're all seeing a slowdown.
Mhm.
Um, Apple's changed their rules on vibe coded apps per se, I
Yeah, I was
guess,
gonna say
where
probably because of the AI slop wave that
yeah,
they're probably gonna hit with.
Yeah, and we were talking about this a little bit. They basically have like a disclaimer. It's in the rule update if you really want the details, but it's a disclaimer saying that if you're submitting an app that already has like a large app presence, that they might reject your app. Um, and they list some categories in there or some specific types of apps that have plenty, and like unless it's materially different, but they don't tell you what materially different is. And I don't understand why Apple gets to make that determination.
Mm.
And so, yeah, it's the Apple App Store, but fuck that. Like why are we letting them control what people do with their own phone, number one, and number two, what other people want to write for software? And so I like that you have a choice to have them make sure it doesn't have spam and malware and viruses and shit. But you own the phone at the end of the day, or you own the iPad, or you own the Mac at the end of the day. You should be able to install the software you want. I'm a free software, connoisseur. Most of my stuff I do is open source. I try to open source stuff that isn't, but like I do run a business and it can't open source everything all the time sometimes. But I support projects that are open source too. So I pay for open source software, and I really
Yeah.
appreciate the customers I have who do the same. And if you want open source free software to exist and you have the means, go buy it. If you don't think you're going to
Hmm.
use it forever, or you want to just try it out, throw a few bucks their way, right? That's how you
Hmm.
get this stuff, because if you're not paying for it, it doesn't happen in capitalism. I'm sorry, that's how it is. People are volunteering their time. They'll eventually not volunteer their time if they can go make money doing something
Yeah,
else with
yeah,
that
yeah.
time.
Right, right. Yeah.
But I don't. This is just another nail in the coffin for me for anti-competitive practices. There's no alternative on the iOS. There's no way on iOS to alternatively install an app easily. Like technically, yes, you can fire up Xcode and compile an
Yeah.
app and sideload it on your phone through the developer process. It's a colossal pain in the ass. I do this to test sometimes. I basically
Hmm.
test in the sim and then push it to test flight so it goes to my phone, because the developer sideload process is so tedious.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there are some situations where you need like a camera, which a sim cannot
Mm-hmm.
easily simulate.
Yeah, so I'd rather burn a build and push it to test flight and test it on my device and
Yeah.
everyone else on test flight versus doing the sideload, because the other big thing is if you have developer mode turned on your phone or your iOS device, it is less secure too.
Hmm.
Right. And so part of that is because of the debugging and the stuff that they're doing there, but you can't just easily turn it on and off. With Android you can, or at least the last time I developed on Android, you can, it's toggle it on and off, restart the phone, and it seems to work
Was,
pretty
yeah.
well.
I
But
think you can turn it off on iOS now, developer mode.
you can, you
I mean, I
restart,
have it
but
on.
but it's like a weird process. You have to like plug it in, run Xcode, the build has to fail, then you get the hidden menu, and then you toggle it on and reboot the phone, and then say yes 10 times that you want to enable. I mean, it's just, and it's like,
Yeah.
I get it, you want some friction there,
Mhm.
but like on iOS, you tap, or on Android, you tap the
Android, you gotta
menu
tap
10
the
times or
debug. Yeah,
whatever,
you gotta tap the
you
build
know.
version of your Android thing a
Yeah,
number of
but like
times.
fine,
Yeah.
that's pretty easy to do. But the iOS, they like make it too hard for a reason. And I think it's just like, I guess, it's kind of my book, because like I build software, I have a
Mm,
software company, but I don't like the closed nature of everything. And yes, there's
mm.
advantages, but we have to give people an alternative choice. And like in the EU, if I lived on a different continent, I'd be able to install anything I want. Same fucking iOS, same phone. If I literally took my phone and flew to the EU and changed my device, to UK English when I was in the UK, I'd be able to install my own apps. Seriously, it's already there. But they intentionally did not allow it everywhere and only allow you to sideload apps, quote unquote, easily in markets where the
Right.
law makes them.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's the same with many eSIMs nowadays. Phones intentionally
Yep.
don't let you, easily translate between different.
Yep.
Even though they have the hardware, they don't let you easily switch between them without having to get approved by somebody, which means paying somebody something.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, it's the advice is submit as soon as you can, do the paperwork as soon as you can. My understanding is like midnight, you know, September 30th. If it's not in the app
Yeah.
store or whatever their criteria is, you don't get it. So like that's the big one. And then try. It's like I want to see
Yeah.
more people building in public. I talk about it a lot on the podcast. I haven't done like a build in public, and maybe I will with this.
Cool.
And maybe I'll just do a shorter version of that to like, how do I do the planning process?
Hmm.
Which I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
think
yeah.
is that remarkable, but apparently it is hard for people to plan.
I was gonna say, if you part of your screen might be sitting there for 30 minutes waiting for the line to come back.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, last time I did a live stream, I would probably just do a video this time because yeah, you just and then I can movie magic the
Yeah, yeah,
waiting
yeah,
for.
yeah, yeah.
But
Just yeah,
even
zip
still,
through.
like, I don't know, the planning well, yeah, it probably takes about an hour to like let it crunch. Like, I don't know how long
Mm.
this. I just throw it in the background. I can check
Yeah, and just
obviously,
let
but
it
I
go.
don't
Right,
care
right.
because I'm just doing
Yeah,
something else. And like the AI taking your job thing, no, the AI is freeing me up to do other stuff
mm,
while it's working. And then I get a productivity boost. And then I can choose to spend that productivity boost doing more work for my company or doing something for myself or leisure. And as
yeah,
my boss, I can do that. If you work for someone else, they might want you to do more work for
mm,
them. And if you're creating more value, I would argue you should get more compensation. That's a
yeah.
whole nother conversation. So yeah, Shipathon.
Yeah,
Not an endorsement.
check it
They could
out.
be evil people. I don't know, but I think it's kind of cool. And I'm going to enter my app. I'm going to have 2 apps, I think. We'll see if we get
Yeah, I
them
was gonna
approved.
ask if you could do multiple. Yeah, I was gonna ask if you could do multiple submissions.
My understanding is, yeah, you can do as many apps, I guess, theoretically as you build. The big stipulation is they have to be like new. They can't be on the
Yeah,
market.
yeah, yeah. Right, right.
Um,
They have been started after August 1st or something like that,
yes.
right?
And then it
Yeah,
can't be a new version. You can't be like, I'm doing
yeah, yeah,
2.0.
yeah, yeah,
And don't put out dumb apps. Like if you have an idea for an app and it's a few hours to build, put it out, but then make it better.
yeah,
And that's
yeah.
part of what they're trying to get people to do. I'm a little dubious that it's going to work this time because the app store process is so insane that I feel like a lot of people are going to get bit in the ass on those.
Yeah, I mean that's good. I almost guarantee you that's gonna happen.
I've been developing app store apps for 4 years now.
Mhm.
And I've seen in the last like couple months this shit just grind to a halt. So either
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
doing something differently that I'm supposedly not. I've not gotten any emails or anything from them. It just seems like it's taking a while. And like, sure, I get it. It shit takes a while, or you get an influx of apps. But one, you could fucking communicate and just be like, hey, we're really backed up,
mhm.
right? It's gonna take a little bit longer than normal,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
They don't got the effort. They don't
No,
have
they
the
don't give
time
a
to do
shit.
that.
That's the problem. That's the
Yeah, yeah,
problem. They do not care unless you're giving them money, and then they only care so as long as they get the money from you, and that's
yeah.
unfortunately where we're at. But yeah, I don't know. Anything else on?
No, no. I think even if you're not trying to endorse it, I think the idea that we
Yeah,
push as well is like just do things, and you'll
well,
learn a lot along the way. Yeah.
yeah, and like you said, the hackathon thing, that's a good point. They're running it through a site called devpost.com, devpost.com. And
Mhm.
that is, as far as I can tell, this is again also not an endorsement, but they post a lot of different hackathon-y type stuff. So if you're
Mm.
interested in building apps or trying to do challenges, like there's a lot of challenge like code sites out there
Yeah.
that have all sorts of different kind of things, but I presume they're pretty reputable. But yeah, there's all sorts of different challenges you can throw your hat into the ring on, and if even I would say like if you're trying to get started, I see how do I get started? How do I do this? Okay, well, even if you don't want to submit to a challenge, but you find a challenge on there that's interesting, do the challenge, do it offline,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
build your own
Right.
thing. If you don't get it done in 30 days or whatever the time frame is, fine. You learn something, but do it to completion as you would, and then figure out how would I do this faster? Would I want to do it faster? Maybe you're
Right.
not a time pressure person. Maybe you really want to, but the thing I like about the hackathons is like you have a limited duration, so you're forced
Yeah.
to do something. And
Yeah.
ideally you have a solution, but sometimes you find out the problem's too hard or it takes too long, or it's the right problem, but you don't have a solution, or the solution is actually more complicated, or you need more information. But like make sure you get some sort of a product that you can put in front of another human and say, what do you think?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the goal, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. Ultimately, that's one of the key elements of the hackathon is not just getting the constraint, but usually you're giving some topic, but at
Yep.
the end of it, you're expected to deliver something. I think
Yeah.
especially now in the age of AI, people can spin their wheels a lot, and having the criteria of like delivery is a good
Well, you can
self-contained
spin your
thing.
wheels a lot. Like I'm building a game for one of my submissions. It's not
Yeah,
something my company really
that's
does.
that's one of the dangerous ones where you spin your wheels all
Yeah.
the time because you keep adding
Yeah.
things or keep changing it, and
Yeah. And it's I don't want to go too far into it, but it is heavily inspired by a game that
yeah.
I guess it technically exists, but it's like hard to play or hard to find now. And there's been
Mm,
uh new developments in that series that have radically changed the gameplay, and I don't particularly care for the new versions. And so I'm
okay, I think I
building
know
a
what you're talking about. Okay,
yeah, I'm building a
okay,
heavily
yeah,
inspired version of an older version of that, and I'm adding some new features that I think are kind of cool. And I have a plan for a bunch of mechanics. Like I don't know if the mechanics are going to make it for the cutoff, but like I do plan to put it in the app store. I'll sell. I mean, we can talk about it on stream once it's like in the app store, um, which could be 2 months from now. Hopefully not, but it's almost done, testable. Like it's like working ish. But yeah, so I'm going to do some spins on it, and it's a little bit of a gray area too, because it's like it's like I'm intentionally not copying, like,
yeah, like the
and
IP stuff, right?
and
Yeah,
I'm yeah, doing like all the original art and like the mechanics. I'm borrowing from that kind of stuff. Like I'm totally cool with that. Like all like again, most of my stuff is open source. If you want to go fork it and build your own fucking whatever, I don't know.
yeah,
And there isn't a viable version of this available, because if there was, I wouldn't do it. But to your
mm,
point, and so I was texting a friend, he might be listening, and I don't think I texted him back yet about it. But he's like, "Can't you just download it and save tokens or something like that?" And I was like, "Yes, but it doesn't exist in iOS, as far as I can tell. At least I haven't been able to
yeah,
find it. AI hasn't been able to find it either. And two, it's a very different thing than what already exists, right? It's totally
mm,
fine to take something that's out there and put your spin on it. It's also dangerous because then you get
yeah,
50 fart apps, and how many fart apps does the world actually need? But more importantly, in the niche of games,
yeah,
we'll call it a simulation game. How many people are actually in there to buy a simulation game? More importantly, how many people are actually going to buy a variant of something? And
yeah,
some simulation games, like what is it, Warhammer is like a huge one where like everybody
yeah,
goes crazy about. I'm not a Warhammer person, don't at me, but I know I have friends who are, and they're like, there's all sorts of little spin-offs that people do, and there's a huge fan mod community, and people, some people hate it, some people love it. So it's like that could be a good thing, but kind of, marketplace kind of thing is like you gotta, if you're gonna spin up something, especially if it's gonna be like heavily AI done, just if it's really quick and fast and you can do it, someone else can too. And it's
mm,
what are you adding or
yeah,
subtracting sometimes or improving upon that makes it better. And I think, for more importantly, if you actually want to sell this and like make money or like make it a business, like what value are you providing that
value,
other
right?
people don't have? Like what's your
Yeah,
special sauce?
yeah, yeah,
Like someone
exactly.
can eat your burger and copy your special sauce, but it's pretty hard,
Yeah,
right? To use the burger
yeah.
analogy.
That was like interesting
The
enough.
literal
Yes,
special, well, that was
yeah, the little
that's
sauce.
special sauce, right? Because
Yeah,
there's only so many things you can do to a hamburger or a sub or something, and then that special sauce was like the flavor that
what?
other
Yeah,
people didn't
differentiate.
have,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
differentiation.
Because
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it's bread, and if you're, building a burger shop or a sub shop, you're probably getting the bread from the same bakery as everyone else, or one of the 4 bake, right? So how do you
right.
differentiate? Well, you make a sauce that tastes really great.
Yeah.
So, cool. All right, well, happy Thursday.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Find your special sauce. That's where we ended.
We had open sauce, now we have special sauce.
Ah, yes, yes. Nice, nice.
Yeah, and good luck for folks. Yeah, feel free to drop comments or whatever. I might, if there's a lot of interest in this, I might do a live stream, this week or something, or next week. If folks
Yeah,
are
yeah.
really interested in seeing the process, hit us up, email, whatever you want to do. And I'm happy to like collaborate with folks too. 'Cause I want to see more people building stuff, and you don't have to build something to make money either. You can put it in the app store for free.
Right.
Or if your success criteria is like one other human in the world bought my thing, that's great, right? I don't
Yeah.
think you're frankly going to make money on a game. I don't think you're going to become an indie game studio. I don't think that's real.
Mm.
But if you want to go for it, go for it. Just know it's going to be really hard, and make sure you have another way to economically support yourself until you make success.
Have a plan B. Yeah.
You don't necessarily need a plan B, but like you got to be realistic, right? You got to,
Mm.
if you're going to do that, you got to be able to set benchmarks so you make enough revenue to start covering it. If you're not making the revenue, then you got to do something to make the revenue.
Yeah.
Or have someone else pay you.
Also valid plan B.
Called venture capitalists, and they probably will not invest in your game studio.
No.